Hi, my name is Cameron Schwab, and I'm talking to you today about the history of softball. People assume that softball came about because of baseball, but did you know it actually came about because of a football game? Crazy to think, right? How does a game with bats, balls, and gloves come from a game with only a ball, and that, and the ball is the size of this, and the softball is the size of that? So when people think of softball, they just think of a bunch of girls throwing around a ball and giggling. That is not what happens. For me, at least, when I play softball, I turn into a different person. I am more serious, and if someone messes with me, I won't hesitate to tell them off. I have played softball since I was about 9 or 10 years old. It has always been a part of my life. I even still play it to this day at UJ, and I'm sure I will still play it when I'm older, whether that is fast pitch, what I play now, or slow pitch. Softball will stay with me until the day I die. Since I've played softball, the game has changed a lot. From having a coach pitch 20 to 30 miles per hour at me to having girls pitch 60 to 65 miles per hour at me. The game is always changing, and it will always keep changing. Girls are pitching faster, they're pitching different pitches, and in general, the game is just getting faster. And the bats are having more pop, and pop is how the ball comes off the bat. Overall, since softball has become a sport, the game has changed so much. In this, I'll be talking about the history of softball, how softball is today, and my experience with the changes of softball. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the history of softball. Many people assume the idea of softball came from baseball. In reality, the sport's first game actually came from a football game. This all happened on Thanksgiving Day of 1887, when several alumni were at the Farragut Boat Club in Chicago, Illinois. They were watching a football game between Yale and Harvard. As the game finished, Yale came out victorious. After this happened, a Yale alumni playfully threw a boxing glove at a Harvard fan. This certain Harvard fan swung at the boxing glove with a stick. The rest of the group he was with sat in awe. A reporter that was at the game playfully called out "play ball," and that's what most umpires say before the game starts. And after he called out "play ball," this commenced the first softball game between football fans, using the boxing glove as a ball and a broom handle as a bat. As softball became fantasized by many people in the Midwest, it went under many different name changes. Some of those name changes were indoor baseball, kitten baseball, diamond bat, mush ball, and pumpkin ball. Finally, in 1926, Walter Hackinson threw out all those names and came up with softball. He did this while representing the YMCA at the National Recreation Congress meeting. Finally, by 1930, softball became the sport's official name. Softball was originally advertised as an indoor game for baseball players that were looking to maintain their athleticism during their off-season. Slowly, it gained so much of its own popularity and recognition that it quickly begun as its own sport. In 1991, women's fast pitch was added to the list of sports at the 1966 Summer Olympics. This was considered a landmark many people see as the ultimate success of the sport. Sadly, it was later dropped out of the 2012 Summer Olympics, but it was supposed to be in the 2020 Summer Olympics, but because of COVID, that's now happening in 2021. Although it was dropped from the 2012 Summer Olympics, it is still one of the most popular sports in the United States, and 113 countries have joined the International Softball Federation since the organization's formation in 1952. From a different source that I found, softball has evolved from a sport with two basic constants, a large ball and an underhand pitch, to a game now with the complexity of baseball. Some women, such as Nina Corrigan and Bertha Reagan Ticky, found softball to be a distraction during the time of World War II. The evolution of softball has been influenced by the legislation of the Title IX Amendment. This made schools provide the same amount of This made schools provide the same amount of opportunities to women as men had. As a result of this, softball programs began to grow because of more funding. This was huge back in the day because women were expected I'm sorry, my screen froze. This was huge back in the day because women were expected to stay in the kitchen and help their husbands. With softball, they were able to break free from that and do their own thing. As you can tell, softball has went through many changes over the years. Now let's compare softball from when it first started to what it is now. So, softball today is considered one of the most popular sports in the United States, with an estimated 40 million Americans engaging in at least one softball game per year, whether that be slow pitch or fast pitch. Since softball can be played indoors and outdoors, softball games are played year-round. This is good for people in colder climates because you can't really play softball in the snow. You can, but you'd most likely get frostbite and you may break your bat. Ages of players can range from 8-year-olds to 60-year-olds. Softball is even played with co-ed teams, which means men and women are on the same team. But the rules are modified to fit both genders. Sometimes companies and organizations will form co-ed teams to play for benefits and charity foundations. I find that part very sweet because people are having fun while doing something for a good cause. Softball is still undergoing changes to this day. It has gone through considerate modifications since its creation in 1887. It is loved throughout several countries in the world, especially in Australia, China, and Japan. This shows how much people have learned to love softball, and even though some people believe baseball is better. To baseball players, baseball is better. But to softball players, softball is better. Don't come at me for that, it's just how it is. And then, with my experience with softball, since I played softball since I was about 9 or 10. You could say I have a lot of experience with it. During 10U, which is 9 and 10-year-olds, we would have a girl pitch, and when she threw 3 pitches and the batter didn't put the ball in play, the coach came in to pitch. Now moving on to 12U, which was 11 and 10-year-olds, a girl would still pitch, but if she pitched 4 balls, the batter would, or before the batter struck out or hit the ball, the coach would come in to pitch. Now into 14U and beyond that, if the pitcher pitched 4 balls before the batter struck out or put the ball in play, the batter would simply go to first base. From that, you can tell the rules have changed from when I was 9 to when I was 19, which is now. I know the rule that changed while I played when I was younger was that we were allowed 4 people in the outfield. We would have someone in left center, right, and right center. Now that I'm 19, we only have 3 people in the outfield, a girl in left, center, and right. Notice how when I was younger, we didn't have a girl in center. This also shows how the rules have changed since I have played softball. There has also been rule changes while I've been in high school. The biggest one I can think of is what we call blocking the plate. This is when a person purposely stands in front of the plate so the runner can't get to it. I don't exactly remember what changed with that rule. I just know something about it changed. And this also shows softball rules can change within a span of just 1 year. I know this may be a lot, but from what I've said, you can tell that the game of softball has changed from 1887 to 2020. Since I have played softball, the game has changed a lot. From having the coach pitch 25 to 30 miles an hour at me to having girls pitch 60 to 65 miles an hour at me. The game is always changing, and it will always keep changing. Girls are pitching faster, they are pitching different pitches, and the game in general overall is getting faster. And the bats are getting more pop, and pop is how the ball comes off the bat. Overall, since softball has become a sport, the game has changed so much. I went over the history of softball, how softball is today, and my experience with the rules changes as I have played from when I was 9 to 19. After listening to this speech, I hope it gives you a little motivation to go out and play softball, or heck, even baseball, even though softball is better.